Good evening. Breaking news tonight. One of the world's most famous entertainers, America's dad, has been found guilty of sexual assault. A few moments ago, Bill Cosby was convicted for drugging and sexually assaulting a woman in 2004. He now faces up to 10 years in prison on each of the 3 counts. More than 50 women have accused Cosby of sexual misconduct in recent years. This was the first allegation to result in criminal charges and conviction. The attorney, Gloria Allred, says the ruling shows women are finally getting justice beyond the Me Too movement.
We are so happy that finally we can say women are believed, and not only on #MeToo, but in a court of law where they were under oath, where they testified truthfully, where they were attacked, where they were smeared, where they were denigrated, where there were attempts to discredit them. And after all is said and done, women were finally believed, and we thank the jury so much for that.
This case is the first celebrity sexual assault trial since the #MeToo movement began. And many people were extremely interested to get a feel for what it's changed. Lisa Bloom represents Janice Dickinson. Janice Dickinson testified in court that Cosby sexually assaulted her too. Lisa Bloom joins me now from Los Angeles. I suppose the first and most obvious question is your client's response, bearing in mind her own claims, of course, were barred by statutes of limitations. So how does Janice, who I know you've been talking to in the last hour, how does she regard the events of this afternoon?
Well, Janice is absolutely thrilled, as I am. You know, this has been a long time in coming. I represent her in a civil suit, and we've been fighting Bill Cosby there in a defamation case for 3 years and winning every step of the way, winning in the trial court, winning on appeal, but he just keeps appealing and appealing. But this was our first chance to get justice on the criminal side, and Janice was one of the 5 prior bad acts witnesses. I prepared her at length for what I was sure would be a brutal cross-examination, but once she was up there on the stand, of course, she's up there all alone, and I think she did beautifully, as did the other 4 prior bad acts women, and of course, Andrea Constand herself, who this case was all about. Now, this is just a breathtaking day for justice for survivors of sexual abuse.
What do you think was different between this trial and the previous one? And we'll come into the Me Too movement and how that played in just a moment. But in terms of the evidence that was allowed, in terms of the prior bad acts, this was a different type.
Very significant differences, important differences. For the defense, they got to call a witness they couldn't call last time, a woman named Marguerite Jackson, who said that Andrea Constand said she was going to set up a celebrity and make money off of it. Obviously, she was not believed, but she was allowed to testify. For the prosecution, their first witness, and this was a brilliant move, as a trial lawyer myself, I give them all the credit in the world for this, they called an expert psychologist who talked about rape myths and who debunked all of the myths around sexual assault, like women don't typically go to the police right away when they're sexually assaulted. If it's an acquaintance rape situation, as it is with Cosby, they continue to have a relationship with him. She explained all of that to the jury. It really framed the case. And then, of course, the 5 prior bad acts witnesses, women in their 50s and 60s, one of them in tears throughout her testimony. Another one, you know, very stoic. Another one kind of humorous and laughing at times. I mean, these are just real people, authentic to who they are, telling their story. And I'll tell you, Richard, every time one of them in the courtroom got to her story and she said, and then he gave me a pill, you could have heard a pin drop in that courtroom. I mean, it was absolutely riveting.
And how do you think the Me Too movement, because discussing it in the office when the verdict came out, you know, people were sort of saying, well, the first trial was prior to Me Too, the second trial afterwards, and that sea change that Gloria spoke about, we have to add, I mean, how do we quantify that sea change?
Yes, and by the way, Gloria is my mother, and I applaud her for all of her work representing 33 women accusing Cosby. So here's how it changes things. I can tell you, as a trial lawyer, you know, these are the waters in which we swim. I can't take my jury and put them in a vacuum. They live in a particular culture. Until the Me Too movement, for a large part of the population, women were not believed. And now we all live in a culture where thousands upon thousands of women have come out on social media, in their families, in their workplaces, and said, you know what, this happened to me too. And I don't think very many women are surprised, but I think a lot of men have been, and a lot of men have been educated. Wow, all of these women talking about sexual assault, I guess it's real. You know, this is my mother, my sister, my girlfriend. If they're all talking about it, you know, it educates people.
How do you now prevent it from going back into the cupboard? I mean, the risk with all of these movements is there is this phenomenal forward motion, but it's not built upon with deep foundations of concrete. Now, yes, Cosby has been convicted, and that can be held up not just as a symbol, but as a talisman, if you like, of it. What needs to happen next?
Well, I got news for you. We're just getting started in the Me Too movement. I mean, my law firm, we have 14 lawyers and hundreds of cases, and most of them are sexual harassment and sexual assault against high-profile men. And women are finding their courage. They're standing together. They're supporting one another. You know, nobody's going back. We're only going forward, and we're getting a lot of support. We're getting a lot of juries coming back with multi-million-dollar verdicts in discrimination and harassment cases. So this is an exciting new day where women are actually being believed.
I want to read one of your tweets, Lisa, if I may. You tweeted this afternoon, I'm already tired of hearing commentators say 30 years Cosby faces as a life sentence. He had 80 years of freedom. They were accused by 60-plus women of sexual assault. He's had a long life of freedom. Now he'll serve a little time. Do you think do you think he'll get the full 10 years on each concurrently?
No, there's no way. He has no prior criminal history. The court will take into account his age and the fact that he's legally blind and probably has some significant medical problems. You know, none of that matters to me. Whatever that happens to him is going to happen to him. What matters to me is that all of the women who spoke out are now being vindicated. I sat in that courtroom and held their hands and hugged them during the first week. You know, I was with my client, and as she's outside smoking and anxious and nervous, and, you know, they have all gotten justice and accountability today. Whatever happens to Cosby, that's fine.
Lisa, I want to end on a really positive note for you, obviously on a great day for you, your mother, and the movement. But there will be women watching tonight, because CNN International, in the many jurisdictions and countries in which we are seen, where the role and the legal status of women is miles apart from what you are now talking about tonight. They can't even imagine having the same sort of freedoms, abilities, the ability to actually call out on sexual assault. What's your message to them tonight?
Well, first of all, there are feminists in all of those countries who are speaking out, who are standing up, and I stand with them. Find the feminists, find the women standing up in your countries and trying to change the laws, because they are there, whether it's Saudi Arabia, Iran, Somalia, or anywhere else. There are women who are very bravely taking on the status quo and saying we are equal human beings, so stand with them.
Lisa, always wonderful to have you on the program. Thank you for taking time.
Thank you so much.